Well, hello everybody again, and thank you very much for the introduction, Margareta, and the invitation to this workshop and to this talk. So my talk is about a perspective on national research infrastructures and their links to EOSC. So how do national research infrastructures relate to EOSC? And as you may recognize already here from the acronyms here on the slide, DARIA, DE, CLARIA, Text Plus, NFDI, I will, like Sally, put a bit of focus on humanities and cultural studies, since this is the main area of activity in Göttingen, and it is also my personal background. But of course, this is all very much related to and embedded into the big national endeavor in Germany, the NFDI, the German National Research Data Infrastructure. So we will, of course, talk about the NFDI and its links to EOSC as well. Now, starting with an overview of the digital research infrastructure related activities at the Göttingen University, and here especially at the Göttingen State and University Library, which I'm working for. The SUB, as many of you probably know, is a long-standing partner in research infrastructure endeavors since the late 1990s already, covering topics such as open access, virtual research environments, open science, interoperability, and so on. And from the beginning, there was a parallel progressing along local trails here at the campus in Göttingen on national level, with initiatives like DINI, the German Initiative for Network Information, DARIA.de, now recently the NFDI and Open Access Net, and of course closely related and embedded into the European developments and also on international trails. We have a close collaboration here in Göttingen with the Data and IT Service Center of the university, which is the GVDG, probably also known to some of you, and this partnership is utilized in a manifold range of projects and initiatives, and also institutionalized, for example, here on local level in the Göttingen research, in the Göttingen E-Research Alliance. Now, focusing on the activities related to the humanities and cultural studies, I've put here kind of a family tree of these activities at SUB. We have started developing the DARIA.de national node since 2011, and then joined together with the CLARIA.d national node into CLARIA.de in 2019. And all this is very much the basis for the NFDI related activities in the humanities and cultural studies. But apart from that, and somehow independently, we have just implemented an association, research infrastructures in the humanities and cultural studies, which aims to sustain the DARIA.de, CLARIA.d, and also upcoming activities with operas, for example, into one association, and to join all the institutions together that work in this area. Now, getting to the NFDI as the main national perspective, let's say, on research infrastructures. The NFDI addresses all different disciplines. It forms with federal funding a framework of research data infrastructure consortia. We have had 3 funding rounds. The third round is now in the finalization phase. We do not yet know which consortia are going to be funded. Currently, We have 19 different consortia addressing different disciplinary scopes and methods. In all kinds of sciences, the consortia are built bottom up with disciplinary scopes and of course linkages to already existing building blocks, let's say, research infrastructure blocks. But so the main point here is that this was really designed as a bottom-up process, so that the various disciplines needed to form their own communities and to get together to form these consortia, which are now funded up to 30 consortia in the end. And what is currently happening, I will talk a little bit about that at the end, is a basic services a collaboration between these consortia, which is currently in the application process. And of course, all this is very closely related to EOSC activities. The NFDI Association itself is member of the EOSC Association. The various consortia are then connected within the NFDI Association through sections as a cross-cutting format for thematically focused work. And so far we have 4 different sections implemented. One on common infrastructures, where many issues like identity and access management, persistent identifiers, research software, and various subjects are addressed. Then we have a second section on metadata, terminologies, and provenance. We have ethical, legal, and social aspects, and training and education. So all the areas that have been addressed here before, also as cross-cutting topics, let's say, which all disciplines need to address in their consortia. Here is a spotlight on the humanities and cultural studies consortia. We have currently the 4 initiatives here, 2 of which are already funded, NFDI for Culture and Text Plus, and NFDI for Memory and NFDI for Objects are now currently in the 3rd round applying. These initiatives have joined together and have signed a memorandum of understanding also to work together to really address all the communities, and the cooperation on a daily basis is already established between these initiatives. And I want to relate a bit to Sally's point also on the point of connecting cultural heritage data and research data. This is really a main focus and a main point for all these 4 initiatives, to particularly cover the cultural heritage data from archives, libraries, and museums as well. And you can find the memorandum of understanding here on Zenodo if you like. I would just put a spotlight on the Text Plus consortium, in which we are very active. We are a co-applicant partner, and I'm the co-spokesperson for the infrastructure and operations task area here. It is a consortium for text and language-based research data, and the important point here is that we work with data domains, and we have started with a focus on 3 data domains: collections, lexical resources, and editions. And well, we have close cooperation and of course close networks with the specialized information services here in Germany, the academic societies. So this is a main point to closely relate to all the communities and involve them in the development of the research infrastructure. It is coordinated by the EDS in Mannheim, and you will see here the 5 co-applicant institutions. But as I mentioned already, at the core of the research data management strategy here, we have the thematic clusters, the data domains and the thematic clusters, which bundle activities related to specific subtypes of data and research methods in one data domain. And each of these clusters consists of specialized data and competence centers. And these clusters offer services which build on generic services provided by the infrastructure operations task area and are then tailored to cluster-specific requirements. This is our approach to balance the generic approach with a very specific needs and requirements of the research communities. So here you have the overview again of the data domains with their clusters. And you can see that the standardization activities, community activities, software activities do address on one hand the domain and cluster specific work, and on the other hand contribute to cross-domain work. And the infrastructure operations task area is the main glue, let's say, to provide cross-data domain generic services, which fosters interoperability and connects to NFDI as a whole and beyond. So, of course, also to the EOSC. I will just put a brief spotlight on one of the Text Plus offers, which is the search and interoperability approach. What we here are implementing as a federated data and metadata infrastructure. It is based on existing components, and this is a goal of all our endeavors here, a challenge to findability and unified presentation of all data and metadata on different levels of granularity. This is the main point here. And here, I would like to focus on the G&D agency just a moment. So building upon library resources, we are going to implement an agency for text and language-based research data as a service which extends the scope of the traditional library authority file, the G&D of the German National Library, for research data in alignment with all the relevant standardization committees. And this should very much help to get in a very practical way to interlinked data from all these different data domains and beyond, and to provide also connections then to knowledge graphs that you may recognize here, Europeana, OpenAir, and so on. So after this short insight into one of the so far 19 NFDI consortia, I would just like to briefly take a look at the recent steps here in Germany in joining forces of all NFDI consortia, which now shall move forward to the so-called basic services, and this is closely connected to the EOSC developments. So all the consortia have submitted a bid now for a joint collaboration, which shall deliver common services, basic services, and in the first step we are addressing identity and access management, persistent identifiers, and terminology services. So all well-known subjects here in the EOSC context as well. And the aim is to really build up from what is there in the various consortia and build up common services that will of course be basically federated services, but which will really address the specific requirements of all the different research communities. So how does all this link to EOSC? On one hand, getting back to DARIA.de, this is of course closely connected to the results that Sally presented. For example, the DARIA.de offerings are all presented in the SSH Open Marketplace as central entry point. And then, of course, the main interaction from the German perspective is between AFDI and EOSC. EOSC has done a lot of groundwork for the development of a federated service infrastructure, and which resulted in the EOSC interoperability framework. And the challenge and the task now is to, on one hand, adopt these existing components, which consist of standards, policies, procedures, and best practices, and on the other hand, to contribute to the realization and adaptation of this common infrastructure. So we're somehow working from two sides towards the same and common goal, and we have to make sure that we link these efforts clearly together. It's a complex task, I think, in complex environments, and we feel that is already quite a big challenge to bring our own communities together. So even more, it is of course a challenge to interlink all this in the EOSC context. And I will close with this, and thank you very much.